Hi, I'm John Crum. I'm with Kunlun Mountain Studios. I'm here to talk to you about one of the games we're producing. It's called Stacked, and it is a shared storytelling game. What that means is you get a bunch of friends together, you make up some characters, and you tell stories about what cool things your characters do. I'm going to give you a basic rundown of how the game is played and everything you're going to need. These are all the items you're going to need to play the game. First, you're going to need a set of the rules, and the rules are just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Everything you're going to need right there, and featuring the lovely artwork of Miss Cat Larange. You're going to need a writing implement. I like mechanical pencils myself. Something to write on, pad of paper, dry erase board, what have you. You're going to need some dice, a fair number of them, but the dice used are the basic 6-sider found in most board games. Very easy to find in either loose board games or toy hobby or game shops. And finally, you're going to need a tarot deck, which is how you generate random bits of plot around which the story revolves. So once you get your friends together, the first thing you have to do is agree on the setting, whether you're going to be in the American West, steampunk, cyberpunk, sci-fi, what have you. Once you agree on that, you have to decide what direction the story is going to go, basically. Then you make up your characters and you get playing. Now, once you get into the meat and potatoes of the playing, everybody rolls a die, figures out who's going to draw first. Once you figure out who's going to draw first, you start drawing cards and telling your story. Now, the game divides the tarot deck into 3 types of cards. You've got the minor arcana number cards, minor arcana face cards, and the trump cards, or major arcana. So we're going to go through those one at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is the most basic, which is these, the minor arcana number cards. Now when you draw one of these, how you draw it influences whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. If you draw it and it's right side up, it's a good thing. This will add to your roll, add to the number of your roll. So if you draw this face up and you roll a die, that's 3 plus 3, you add to 6. And then if you draw it upside down, that takes away from your roll. So then if you draw that upside down, you're subtracting 3 from this, 4, so that's only a 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. So there you go, that's that. And then we're going to get into the story elements of that in just a moment. Next one up is going to be the minor arcana face cards. And these are special events. These require you to do what's called an ante. It's not required with the minor arcana number cards, and we're going to get into that again. And special events are big events that everybody gets a nice little reward out of for participating in. And then finally, you have the major arcana. And the major arcana are super special characters who are not players, or big events that the characters can participate in that everybody gets to tell about. Nobody has to roll when these are drawn. They're just there. They just have an effect. Alright, now back to these story cards. The way this works is, as I said, it's shared storytelling. So once you decide on a setting, we'll say fantasy, and a general plot, we're dungeon crawling, or we're going through a dungeon complex, we're exploring a dungeon. So now we have a context in which to say what's going on. Now, every character has statistics that rule how good they are at things, and each of the 4 suits of the tarot correspond to 1 or 2 of the stats. You have physical, mental, social, and combat. Well, cups counts as social. So we're exploring a dungeon complex and we find another party of adventurers, and we have to negotiate with them about how we're gonna explore this dungeon with them. So we'll say we drew that and it's upside down. Stinky Molly, we have a penalty. Now we have to socialize. So I'll say I have a social score of 2. So I've got 2 dice that I can roll. Now I have to ante in. I have to decide if I want to ante in any dice. Now the way this works, if I add a die to increase the difficulty, I get a reward from the task. So if I throw a die in, 6, so that adds to the difficulty of 9, but now if I pass, I get this as a reward die. I get this as something I can spend later on items, statistics, pardon me, items, statistics, healing, what have you. Now if I fail, I take what's called a strike. And a strike means that all of my statistics are temporarily reduced by 1. Now if I have reward dice, I can fix that strike. I can take that strike away. But that strike causes that penalty if I don't pass the roll. And so the more dice I put in, the greater the risk, but the bigger the reward. Now you don't have to contribute to any of the random or the minor arcana number cards. You don't have to. However, the face cards, you do. These are special events. Now the Queen of Swords, swords is the combat suit. So if I want to throw into, we'll say I have a combat of 1. I don't really want to throw into it, but I have to because it's a special event. I have to contribute to it. That's going to hurt. Everybody has to contribute to it, but the thing is, you get 1 more die out than you put in. So no matter how many dice I put in, I get an extra die out of it. So if I put 2 dice in, I'll get 3 dice out. If I put 3 dice in, 4 dice out, etc. So I'll roll that. It makes sense. Failed, so I would take a strike. Now if I passed, if I somehow miraculously rolled a 6, then I would pass. I would get those 2 reward dice out of there, and then we defeat our enemies. Hoorah! This is a very fun system. It's very loose, very fluid. There aren't a whole lot of rules, but there's a lot of openness to it and a lot of directions you can take it. Nothing's set. You can adjust the difficulty by taking out higher or lower numbered cards, or adjust what the story is going to do by adjusting which major arcana cards are in there. It's all up to you. If you have any questions, you can hit us up on DeviantArt as Kunlun Mountain. You can also find us on Kickstarter, Google+, and Facebook as Kunlun Mountain Studios. And you can email us at kunlunmountainstudios@gmail.com.